Jar of Marble dwellers and Jar of Marble curious. My name is Linda and this is Jar of Marbles.
And I'm Bob.
It's good to see you, Bob.
Yep, I'm very happy to see you too. I love doing this.
I know, you're really into it, aren't you?
I really am.
So as I say, welcome. So glad that you could join us. This week, I wanted to talk a little bit about Sheroes, our heroines. Now and then I fall over information that I've had no idea about, and let's face it, there's plenty to know, and if you want to know, right? So I could only choose a few, but I was just reading up about just some amazing stories of heroism that people have displayed in their lives, and there were so many to choose from.
I never wish harm upon anyone who wrongs me. I just wish for sudden, explosive diarrhea when stuck in traffic.
Oh, Bob.
Yeah, with frequent sneezes.
Nice, Bob.
Yeah.
Now and then I come across amazing stories of heroism, and people will forever intrigue me, and some more than others. An aspect of any of our heroes as they were people just like you and me who decided to do what it was that they were compelled to do. They decided and did it. And here are a slither of some of my Sheroes.
Ho, 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 here we go.
Ida and Louise Cook were unmarried sisters in their mid-30s who lived with their parents in England.
Oh, yeah.
One wrote romance novels for Mills and Boon, England's Harlequin equivalent, and the other commuted to work as a secretary for the Silver Service.
Oh, yes.
They wore homemade clothes and both loved the opera.
I can totally keep secrets. It's the people I tell them to that can't.
Oh, Bob.
Yeah.
They loved opera so much that they would go to Germany for the weekend just to see the opera there. And no one paid attention to them crossing the border, a couple of women in their homemade clothes, nor on their return trip with their furs and jewels.
Wait a minute, they were really brave.
What Ida and Louise were doing, in addition to going to their beloved opera, was collecting valuables from what would be refugees to help them in their new lives.
How do you get Pikachu onto the bus? You Pokemon.
The sisters would find people who would vouch for the refugees, find people willing to home them, get papers for them, and even rented an apartment as a temporary space for refugees who had just arrived. The sisters used their own money for this. The refugees would sell their valuables to then help them settle in. The women entered and left through different checkpoints, so the same guards wouldn't be able to notice them suddenly wearing jewellery and furs alike. They would make up lies about their jewellery, like they couldn't trust the safety of the apartment, leaving their jewels there. You know, they had to wear them all, so they acted simple and foolish and were never caught.
Yeah! Oh, that sounds brilliant. I reckon. Yeah.
I reckon, Bob.
Apparently you can't use beef stew as a password. It's not strong enough. Strong enough.
Hashtag Sheroes Heroines. Since her death in 1979, the woman who discovered what the universe is made of has not so much as received a gold pen or a memorial plaque. Her newspaper obituaries do not mention her greatest discovery. Her name is Cecelia Payne. We all know that apparently, as the rumours go, that Isaac Newton discovered gravity, Darwin discovered evolution, and Albert Einstein discovered the relativity of time. But when it comes to the composition of our universe, the textbooks simply state that the most abundant atom in the universe is hydrogen. And how do we know this?
Cecelia Payne.
Who knew? A little backstory on Cecilia's life. Cecilia's mother refused to spend money on her college education, but she won a scholarship to Cambridge.
You know, it was only when I bought a motorbike that I found out that adrenaline is actually brown.
Oh, Bob.
Yeah, I know.
Cecelia Payne completed her studies, but Cambridge in England, they wouldn't give her a degree because at that time there was not much exposure for women. She said, heck to that.
Yeah, bugger that.
So she moved to the United States to work at Harvard. Cecelia was the first person ever to earn a PhD in astronomy from Radcliffe College, called the most brilliant PhD thesis ever written in astronomy. Not only did Cecelia discover what the universe is made of, she also discovered what the sun is made of. Now, there was a fellow astronomer called Norris Russell, and he is actually usually given credit for discovering that the sun's composition is different from the Earth's, but he came to his conclusions 4 years later than Payne after telling her not to publish.
Fair shake of the sav.
Yeah, I know. Cecelia Payne is the reason we know basically anything about variable stars. Literally, every other study on variable stars is based on her work.
Yeah!
That's right. Amazing.
So why do we not know this?
Well, since her death in 1979, the woman who discovered what the universe is made of has not so much, as I say, received a memorial plaque.
My psychiatrist told me I was crazy and I said, I want a second opinion. He said, okay, you're ugly too.
Cecilia's obituary in the newspaper did not mention her greatest discovery. She is, however, credited with the breaking the glass ceiling for women in the Harvard Science Department and in astronomy. That's right. As well as inspiring entire generations of women to take up science, Cecelia Payne was an amazing woman and everyone should know her.
Another applause.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Hey, how can you tell when you're getting old?
How, Bob?
When you go to an antique auction and 3 people bid on you.
As we all know, on planet Earth, evolution moves at a glacier's pace. Ever heard of Dorothy Levitt, pioneer of automotive racing? Dorothy Levitt was one of Britain's earliest female racing drivers and probably the first to become a media sensation.
What do you call a steak that's been knighted by the Queen? Sirloin.
Back in 1905, when Dorothy Levitt won the Daily Mail sweepstake at the Brighton Speed Trials, at that event she set a land speed record for women at 92 miles per hour. This was her second speed record. She had already set a water speed record of 19.3 miles per hour in 1903.
What a gal!
So between 1903 and 1908, she raced boats, then cars, initially in the UK and then in France and Germany.
Why did the rooster cross the road? To prove he wasn't a chicken.
Thanks, Bob.
That's all right.
Dorothy's road into motorsport was via being employed as a typist and her boss Selwyn Edge arranging for an unwilling male apprentice named Leslie Callingham to teach her to drive. As the official agent for Napier, Minerva and De Dion, Selwyn Edge provided her with cars for all of her motoring exploits.
I heard that they were linked romantically.
Well, so the rumour mill says. Dorothy continued as a motoring writer until about 1912 with a hiatus in 1909 when she intended to become a pilot.
Boy, she was really driven. Get it? Especially for the times. Why did the chicken go to the seance? To get to the other side.
I think I like that one the best.
Yeah, me too.
It is unclear whether she ever got her pilot's license because she then disappeared from public life until her death in 1922 and she was only aged 39.
Well, we applaud you, Dorothy.
Yes, absolutely. Oh! What's up, Bob?
I saw a moth and lost my gangster for a second. Hey, what's yellow and square?
I don't know.
A tomato in disguise.
Miles Franklin published her 2 novels, My Brilliant Career, 1901, and All That Swagger, 1936, and won acclaim worldwide. Miles, an Australian literary great, moved to the US from Tasmania in 1906 to work on alleviating, I should say, women's suffrage as a feminist. She worked in Chicago for just under 10 years before coming back to Australia. Miles was a strong campaigner for Australian storytelling and literature, supporting writers and literary journals. She joined the Fellowship of Australian Writers in 1933.
Hey, what's green and slimy and hangs from trees? Giraffe boogies. Giraffe boogies, yeah.
Thanks, Bob.
That's all right.
The world-famous Miles Franklin Award was set up as a part of her will, as she bequeathed her estate to fund the award. How very cool. The suburb of Franklin in northern Canberra and the nearby primary school, Miles Franklin Primary School, are named in her honour.
Yeah, that's great.
I know. Fabulous.
Hey, I had a thought.
Yes, Bob.
Remember when you bury a body, cover it with endangered plants so it's illegal to dig it up?
Good to know.
Yeah, follow me for more gardening tips, yeah.
Another heroine, Edith Cowan's name may not be familiar to this generation of Australians, but if you pull a $50 note out of your purse or wallet, you will see her face. I did not know this. I saw a photo of her, and again, a face that I would have seen in 2024. That is to say, the spunk and determination on her face. So very modern and intelligent. Her face was striking.
You see people in their faces, you kind of read them.
I guess you could say that. Yes, Bob. Edith was a champion of women's rights in Australia and was the first woman elected to an Australian parliament in 1921. In the early 1900s, she fought for the rights of prostitutes and disadvantaged children.
Hey, my mother used to say the way to a man's heart is through his stomach. Lovely woman, useless surgeon.
Edith collected food and clothing for soldiers at the front line and set up systems to help care for soldiers returning home from battle during World War I. Edith was recognised as being one of the first advocates of sex education for children in schools.
Oh, get out of here, I know.
What an amazing individual.
Hey, how do you milk a cow? How do you milk a mouse? You can't. The bucket won't fit underneath it.
Another heroine is Dame Nellie. She was Australia's first acclaimed opera singer. She was born in 1861 in Melbourne and took part of her name from her home city, Melbourne. Nellie went on to achieve fantastic success in Europe in the late 1800s and was one of the biggest celebrities in the world, conquering New York.
A new wine has been made for cats. Won't be long before they start sending regrettable texts and waking up with headaches. I like that one.
Clearly. Dame Nellie created a music school in her hometown of Richmond, Victoria, which she later merged with the Melbourne Conservatorium. When World War I commenced in 1914, she raised over £100 for war charities. Wow! And was honoured as a Dame Commander of the Order of the British Empire as a result. So in 1927, Nellie became the first Australian to appear on the cover of Time magazine. Her image appears on the $100 note. In 1987, the ABC produced a mini-series based on her life called Melba.
Hear, hear.
Absolutely.
Yeah, crikey, yeah. I always wondered about her.
Yeah, you did?
Yeah, that's all, nothing else. Hey, what do you call a man with a bus on his head? Dead. Oh, Bob.
And now we look to another heroine, Margaret Burke White, first American female war correspondent. Margaret Burke White was born in 1904 in New York. She was an American photographer known for her extensive contributions to photojournalism, particularly for her Life magazine work. She is recognised as having been the first female documentary photographer to be accredited by the US Armed Forces.
She worked for the Armed Forces too.
Yeah, I've been thinking.
Yes, Bob. Yes, what? It's weird being the same age as old people.
Isn't it, though? Where the hell did that bloody happen? So, back to Margaret Burke White. She was the daughter of an engineer, designer in the printing industry, moving to New York City on a professional freelance basis. I love that she combined her own last name with her mother's maiden name, Burke, to create her hyphenated professional name. She began her career in 1927 as an industrial and architectural photographer. She soon gained a reputation for her originality.
Hey, why did the teddy bear say no to dessert? Because he was stuffed. Get it stuffed. I don't know.
In 1929, she was hired in the then New Fortune magazine. I looked at some of the photographs of her, and she had a very modern edge about her too. The way she stood and the expression on her face said she also could have been a 2024 woman with ease. This was a woman who did not drown in gender roles, again in a time when she was way ahead of her game. Margaret, working directly with the US Armed Forces, she covered World War II for Life magazine. And while crossing the Atlantic to North Africa, her transport ship was torpedoed and sunk, and she survived to cover the daily struggle of the Allied infantrymen in the Italian campaign.
She is a Shero for sure.
I know. She then covered the siege of Moscow. Toward the end of the war, she crossed the Rhine River into Germany with General Georges Patton's Third Army troops. Her photographs of the emaciated inmates of concentration camps and of the corpses in gas chambers stunned the world. After World War II, Burke White travelled to India to photograph Mohandas Gandhi and record the mass migration into Hindu India and Muslim Pakistan. During the Korean War, she worked as a war correspondent and travelled with South Korean troops.
Did she ever sleep?
She was just one of those amazing people. So towards the end of her career, unfortunately, she was stricken with Parkinson's disease in 1952. But she continued to photograph and write and published several books on her work, as well as her autobiography, Portrait of Myself, 1963. And she retired from Life magazine in 1969.
Wow.
I know. Amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Hey, have you heard of Murphy's Law?
Yeah.
What is it?
Well, if something can go wrong, it will go wrong.
Hey, have you heard of Cole's Law?
No, what? What is it?
Thinly sliced cabbage and mayo. Cole's Law.
Bob. Another fabulous heroine, Gwendolyn Brooks, the first black woman to be awarded the Pulitzer Prize for Poetry. Gwendolyn Brooks is one of the most influential and widely read 20th century American poets. The author of more than 20 books, she was highly regarded during her lifetime and had the distinction of being the first black poet to win the Pulitzer Prize. She was also the first black woman to hold the role of consultant in poetry to the Library of Congress, a position now referred to as the Poet Laureate Consultant in Poetry, and served as an Illinois Poet Laureate for 32 years. Wow.
Amazing.
Absolutely.
I once entered the World Kleptomaniac Championships. I took gold, silver and bronze.
Gwendolyn Brooks' body of work gave her, according to critic George E. Kent, a unique position in American letters. Not only has she combined a strong commitment to racial identity and equality with the mastery of poetic techniques, but she has also managed to bridge the gap between the academic poets of her generation in the 1940s and the young black militant writers of the 1960s.
Hey, getting my kite stuck in the tree isn't the worst thing that happened to me today, but it's definitely up there.
In 2017, the centenary of Brooks' birth was celebrated at the University of Chicago and the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, where her papers are held. Brooks' Day is celebrated annually in her hometown of Chicago. Wow. Outstanding.
Yeah. Yeah.
Valentina Tereshkova, the first woman to travel into space. In 1963, Valentina became the first woman to journey to space orbiting Earth of the Vostok 6 space capsule, in the Vostok 6 space capsule. Soviet cosmonaut became the first woman to fly to space when she launched onto the Vostok 6 mission June the 16th, 1963.
Hey, why do people point to their wrist when they're asking for the time, but they don't point to their bum when they're asked where the bathroom is?
Don't know, Bob.
Yeah, I was just thinking about it.
Yeah, clearly. Our cosmonaut Valentina Tereshkova spent almost 3 days in space during her solo mission.
Hold on. The difference between an astronaut and a cosmonaut?
Good question, Bob. Astronauts are trained by American space agencies such as NASA, and cosmonauts are trained by the Russian Space Agency.
All right, I was just checking. I was having one of my thoughts.
Good on you, Bob. She remains the youngest woman to fly to space, the only female astronaut or cosmonaut to make a solo space journey, and the first civilian to journey to space. That is absolutely amazing.
Yeah!
So following her one and only space mission, Tereshkova had received a number of prestigious medals and has held many political positions. According to the Royal Museum of Greenwich, she has also toured the world as an advocate for Soviet science.
Amazing. Fabulous achievement. Heroic even.
And I'd like to mention Junko Tabei, the first woman to climb Mount Everest. I did not know this, and you probably do, but I did want to mention her as I love the idea of associating a woman climbing Mount Everest. Junko Ishibashi, she was born on 22nd of September 1939, and she was the fifth daughter of 7 children, and she was considered a frail child, but nevertheless she began mountain climbing at the age of 10, going on a class climbing trip to Mount Nasu.
Hey, whoever put the S in fast food is a marketing genius.
She then got married, and hence her surname, Tabei, Junko Tabei. She loved the non-competitive nature of the sport and the striking natural landscapes that came into view upon reaching the top of the mountain. She initially planned on a career as a teacher, but after graduation, she returned to her earlier passion for climbing by joining a number of men's climbing clubs. While some men welcomed her as a fellow climber, others questioned her motives for pursuing a typically male-dominated sport. But soon, she had climbed all the major mountains in Japan, including Mount Fuji.
Hey, I asked a guy at the station when the next train was coming. He told me to look online. I thought that was a bit dangerous. Dangerous, yeah. Online, get it? Yeah.
Yeah, I do. After a long training period, the team she had trained with made the expedition in May 1975, who were initially accompanied by journalists and a television camera crew as they began their climb.
It sounds a bit exciting.
I know. They used the same route to ascend the mountain that Sir Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay had taken in 1953.
Oh, wow.
And 6 Sherpa guides assisted the team for the full span of the expedition. On 4th of May, the team was camping at 6,300 metres, which is 20,700 feet, when an avalanche struck their camp, and Tabei and 4 of her fellow climbers were buried under the snow.
Yeah, I was thinking, if love is blind, why is lingerie so popular? No? Yeah, okay.
Junko lost consciousness until Sherpa guides dug her out. Luckily, there were no casualties. Bruised and injured by the incident, she could barely walk and was forced to spend a couple of days recovering. But as soon as she was able, she resumed the expedition and continued heading her team up the mountain.
Oh, no, that'd be me. I'd be off for a hot cocoa somewhere. That's not for me at all.
No, well, these sort of things are really for special people who really, really are determined to do these things. Although the team had originally planned to send 2 women up to the peak of Everest, accompanied by a Sherpa, a bout of altitude sickness meant that the team's Sherpas could not carry the number of oxygen bottles required to accommodate 2 climbers, so only 1 woman could continue. After much discussion, Junko was nominated to complete the climb. Now, nearing the peak, Junko was furious to discover that she would have to cross a thin, hazardous ridge of ice that had gone completely unmentioned in accounts by previous expeditions. So she crawled along it sideways, later describing it as the most intense or tense experience she had ever had.
I would think so. Drink cocoa, for God's sake, Junko. Eat cocoa. Well, drink cocoa, yeah.
12 days after the avalanche on 16th of May 1975 with her Sherpa guide, Tabei became the first woman to reach the summit of Everest. Junko was showered with attention as a result of her achievement. In Kathmandu, a parade was held in her honour, and on her return to Japan, she was received at the Tokyo airport by thousands of cheering supporters.
So apparently RSVPing back to the wedding invite maybe next time is not the correct response.
No, probably not, Rob. She received messages from the King of Nepal and the Japanese government. Television wanted to make a Everest expedition series about her, and Junko made personal appearances across Japan. However, Junko was uncomfortable with this level of fame. She told media that she preferred to be remembered as the 36th person to summit Everest, but did not intend to be the first woman on Everest.
Well, you were, and massive congratulations. I think that might be a bit better. Yeah, good on you, Junko.
So,
Grandma's been staring through the window ever since it started to snow. If it gets any worse, I'm going to have to let her in. Oh, Bob.
Bob. And that's the end of the episode.
Oh, no, I'm all comfy.
Yes, it's time.
I'm refusing to leave.
Well, Bob, I'll see you next time then.
Well, fair enough.
So, say good day to the family for me. Give the dragonfly a wink. And we'll see you next time, okay? Okay then. Bye.
All right, I'm coming. Bye!